Welcome everyone to SGTV interview sessions, and we have a special guest today, TJ Miller. He performed at the Koger Center. Carolina Productions brought him, and I want to welcome you. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me, man. So this is the podcast edition of your televised content?
Yeah, I was like, I want to start a radio show, but I want to get my license, and I want to curse too, so I was like...
Well, I don't even know why anyone would start like even pursue terrestrial radio anymore.
I know.
It's so bizarre. Because as a stand-up comic, I tour and I do a lot of morning radio, and they're getting fired all the time. You come back and they're like, no, that's not a station anymore. They had to clear that out because it's going down so much as podcasts kind of ascend.
Yeah, they're best.
But the problem with podcasts is, the market is flooded, and you're helping that.
Yeah, I just,
So am I.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a fun thing to do. It's enjoyable, especially
I think
for
it's
people.
great. My podcast is Cashing In with TJ Miller, and on the Nerdist Network, and that's just fun. That's just good, plain, free fun.
Definitely. So
you're charging for this one, right?
Yeah.
$29.99 to hear the first 5 minutes. Everything else after that's free. Snort of it. I'm just screaming from my act.
Yeah. So my first question is for you. Now, since this obviously you came in for college, what do you take a different approach for like doing college, for college students bit, or do you like change it for like a normal audience or?
Well, I guess I have different considerations. I take into account that they're in college. I try and talk about the college a little bit up front, because I think that they kind of, it's important to acknowledge, like, I'm here, I came to your school. I know that this is a different school from other schools. You guys partied the hardest. You're in Playboy's top fucking in the bushes.com last year. So, and then also, like, I'd always, when you're growing up as a comic, you're like, the best thing you could do is play colleges. Imagine you make like a bunch of money, you're performing for like cool, hip, like young kids. It's fucking, that's when you're like in your 20s as a comic. You're like, that would be awesome. Then as you start to become like a little better comedian and you play clubs and stuff, then you come to colleges and it's usually a bit of a, or not usually, it can be a bit of a bummer. It wasn't tonight, for instance, but I did this show in Anchorage, and I didn't start by talking about them, and I went right into my act, and that didn't quite work. And I just kind of never had them. And then when I say things that at a club, no one would bat an eye. Sometimes college students like, whoa, okay. Yeah. Hey, easy, a little over the line, buddy.
Very PC.
And that's because all of them are... None of you have actually been in the real world. I hadn't either so you don't really know exactly how the whole thing operates yet. And that's okay. It's still like an awesome time. And there still can be great audiences like it was tonight. But you sort of have to, you can't talk about everything because there's a whole huge component of life that your audience has yet to live. Whereas when you're in a club, you kind of know it's a diverse mix of everybody. And then if I do a theater's sort of the best option. A theater or a great club. If it's a great club, that's a better option because then you do 2 shows in a night.
Yeah.
And it's usually smaller. But yeah, I like playing colleges. Mm-hmm. It's also interesting to see like a day-long snip. I wish more often I didn't have to leave the next day until like the evening, because I think it would be funny to it's just interesting to see the slice of what this world is that you guys are having these formative years from your life in. You got lizard thickets, but you got great barbecue, and you got, I'm sure an interesting kind of party culture.
We use our spray water.
You guys do your Evian facial spray water. Gets humid down here sometimes.
Oh, it does. We're called the University of Back Sweat.
Is that true?
You walk and it's just like you're sticky and you smell bad, and you usually take like a shower before. And
UBS?
Yeah.
University of Back Sweat? Sweaty Gamecocks? Yeah.
Sweaty Gamecocks. But so I guess moving into your stand-up style, I watch you do the Nerdist does the stand-up without a net, and and it's pretty interesting to watch how you have to think on your feet with the improv.
You mean set list?
Yeah, the set list. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's the tagline though. I think it's stand-up without a net. Mm-hmm. Which is funny because you don't need a net in stand-up. Usually you do it on the floor. But yeah, oh, sorry. So what was the question?
Yeah, I mean, like, how does your, I mean, like, what is your, I mean, I guess, like, your thought process on, like, is it more challenging to do improv, like, on the fly, or is it more to, like, you're hoping that your written material is, like, good enough that it won't bomb?
I totally riff all of those sets, and I'm an improviser by trade. Like, that's what I started as. So, it's that actually I feel more comfortable doing that stand up without a net than I do my own act sometimes. Like, I would much rather have just riffed an hour just now and just been ridiculous and like done crowd work. But I have to work on material because I have to do a special. So, but my material sometimes doesn't go very well.
Yeah.
And it went pretty well here. But I'm still talking about some shit that, like, when I started saying Gleep Glarp the Gobblesnarf was a great friend of mine who committed suicide, you know, right after college, a lot of people were like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I didn't even do some of the strange stuff where I'm keep muttering about elephants and stuff. I mean, it's, you know, so improvising is also a very good tool for me when I'm kind of bombing to, like, jump on out of it. Sometimes it's only too obvious because I'll be like, okay, hey, so here's English Ranger. Any English Rangers out there?
And you always, you know, go to the or, you know, like the, you know, your stereotypes or whatever, or that kind of stuff. Man.
Or just weird faces and funny voices. And yeah, I do a killer Filipino impersonation.
Can we hear it?
No. That's it. I just did it. That's how they say it now. No.
So, now I understand, like, you take it a pretty interesting approach to, like, you know, more like sensitive subject. Like, you did one bit on, like, how you had a seizure once, and I think it's, you know, pretty interesting that you're able to find humor in, like, that, like, kind of almost like serious thing. Like, you're like, oh, you know, almost died or something like that. And
well, yeah, I mean, as an absurdist, you kind of you have to really not take anything seriously. It just can't be all the weight and the gravity that we attach to stuff, all the thinking of the values and the meaning and all this stuff. It's all totally ridiculous. The whole thing's absurd. So, and the flip side of that is the reason I'm a comedian is sort of as a public servant who is providing the drug that is comedy, that distraction, to kind of give you an out for like an hour or 2 hours where you can just forget about it and feel happy. So that, and that comedy kind of seems to be our only weapon against the meaninglessness of all this, and having evolved to a place where we can ask questions that we'll never be able to answer. Yeah, those two things combined make it easy for me to joke about what the fuck ever. But I don't do like political stuff because I don't really see that as, you know, other people are better at that. That whole thing is so ridiculous to me. But I do like, you know, I did have a joke one time where I was like, I hate George W. Bush so much. And, you know, this is a time when people are like, yeah. You know, like, I saw him in a kegger in 1989. And, you know, we were both underaged. And he wouldn't fill my cup up. I'm just sitting there. I'm sitting there. And then somehow it became an allegory for, like, you know, going in to get the weapons of mass destruction, and they weren't there at all or anything like that. But then afterwards, I was like, who gives a shit? I don't want to waste people's time talking about that when I can talk about Gleep Glarp, you know?
Exactly.
Giraffe facts.
And it's also, like, you know, it's oversaturated. Like, there's so many comedians that can, you know, pull your political stuff, and you kind of just want to do, like, stuff that just is like,
the only thing that's really interesting to me is social satire. That's interesting, which is what Silicon Valley is.
Yeah.
You know,
and I guess that, thank you for transitioning to Silicon
I know
Valley.
The meat of what everybody wants these days. Just wait until Deadpool, you old cracker dicks.
Don't worry, we'll get to Deadpool. And
oh no!
Yeah, hopefully you'll give us a vague rendition of.
I'm going to give it all. I'm going to give it all up.
Yeah.
I just told you everything. Marvel fires me. They immediately replace me with an animated CGI character.
Yeah. And I just have one question about Silicon Valley. One of my favorite scenes is when you slap the kid for not giving
That's
him
one of my favorite scenes also. That's a fun one to do.
Can you, like, take me through on, like, how that joke was brought up to you and, like, how that was implemented, or was it all just, like, just like you guys were dying over
I mean,
it?
we saw it at a table read, and it was just hilarious. And you know, the stuff that I sort of say afterwards, but it was like that first moment, because that was early on that was like the 4th or 5th episode in the 1st season, I think. And I was like, oh, thank God, here's what we use the R rating for. This isn't like I get a blowjob in the bathroom or Guilfoyle's like fucking this naked girl or something like that. And it's not like talking about pussy and getting all this stuff. It's more awkward stuff like this guy fucks, like saying that stuff. And then the real, that does push a line. I mean, I hit a kid in the face and called him a cunt on television.
Yeah, over Adderall
And
too.
Yeah. And they had to cut away from the cunt because I think it was too harsh. It was almost like, whoa, that's a lot.
Too much for the focus groups or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was even Alec and Mike being like, let's not do the whole thing. Yeah.
Pushing the envelope too far or something like that. So I want to do something a little bit unique. I want to do kind of rapid fire questions, not like super fast, but kind of questions that
I'll do it as quickly as I can.
Yeah, okay.
Go.
So if ethics were not a problem, what reality show would you make?
If ethics were not a problem?
Yeah, an ethical show.
I want to do something where it's Nick Vatterott, who's like my producing partner, and he is he gets into so much shit where people are so mean to him that we just would make him do things all day on hidden camera. Because when he gets angry, he goes insane. So it would really be almost like a torturing Nick Vatterott thing, but that he was sort of in on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
That'd be funny. What useless talent do you have?
Oh, I don't have any talents that are useless,
No talent.
buddy. Well, I guess I can make a woman climax in under 2 minutes with cunnilingus. I don't find much use for that shit.
And my final one is, what was the most awkward thing you were caught doing?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, you know, it's masturbating and in an open robe sitting, and my mother walked in. This is, 2 months ago, and this was like when I was fucking 14 or something. She walks in, and I quickly tried to close the robe, but it had bunched up underneath my legs when I sat down, so it didn't quite go all the way over. It just sort of barely did. That was pretty bad. And then she sat down and had a conversation with me like everything was okay. And I was like, get away.
Awkward.
It was awkward.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you joining me, especially.
We're going to end that one on a masturbating in front of the mom joke. That's it, boys. Put it to bed.
Yeah. I really don't know what to say, but I appreciate you coming after the show and sitting down to talk with me, and you're a busy man, so
happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, you guys. Deadpool, February 12th.